Good morning and welcome to your Partner in Success Radio. I am your host, Denise Griffitts, and this podcast has been bringing you conversations with authors, entrepreneurs, mentors, and business leaders for more than 17 years. In fact, it's going to turn 18 in January, which shocks me, and we are honored to be ranked in the top 1.5% of podcasts worldwide. And our topic today, this is important, Steal the Show, Secrets to Becoming an Unforgettable podcast guest with podcast booker Noémi Beres. And as you can imagine, this is a topic I feel very strongly about. And our sponsor today is Frederick J. Fisher. Now, Frederick is somebody that I have interviewed. He is a terrific guest, but he is also someone who truly understands the power, it's winter here. Well, it will be for 3 or 4 more days. He truly understands the power of preparation and reputation, 2 things every great podcaster and business owner values. Now, Fred has spent over 50 years helping professionals protect what they've built. And he is the president of Fisher Consulting Group. He is the founder of ELM Insurance Brokers and the author of Claims Made Insurance, a policy that changed the industry. And just like the best podcast conversations, Fred's work is about clarity, trust, and long-term protection, helping leaders and creators secure their future and navigate complex challenges with confidence. So learn more about Frederick J. Fisher and his work in professional liability at Fisher Consulting Group, and you can also connect with him on LinkedIn. My guest today is Noémi Beres. Noémi Beres, and I knew better. I'm so sorry, Noémi. She is the co-owner of Podcast Connections, a podcast booking agency that helps entrepreneurs and business owners grow their influence and share their message through the power of podcast interviews. And her background is fascinating. She has been in online marketing since 2007, holds a master's in Danish Literature and Language, and is both a linguist and a content creator. She's also what she calls a master organizer, which probably explains how she manages so many moving parts in her clients' podcast journeys. And when she's not working, you might find her creating hand-sewn collages or playing her hang-and-frame drums. And I love that balance of art, rhythm, and structure. Noémi, welcome to the show. You and I might as well tell honest right now. You and I do a lot of chatting on LinkedIn about this topic, and I am very excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for inviting me today, Denise. It's an honor. Yeah, and we do chat a lot about it on LinkedIn, I know.
Some of it's rather bitter, I have to say.
Yeah, a little bit.
Mostly me going, bah, 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 just ranting. And as you know, there are very few podcast bookers that I am willing to recommend on LinkedIn, and you're one of them.
I'm honored. I truly, and thank you for that, Denise.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, listen, before we get started, tell people a bit about you and what you want to share with the audience today.
So, yeah, not going back to all my childhood and everything, the whole long story, but I was born and raised in Hungary in Central Europe and ended up living in Ireland and Cyprus. And I've been living here for 14 years. And as you said, I've been an online entrepreneur since 2007. Which is, it has its up and downs and amazing and not so amazing part. But I still love it and I would never do anything else. And so basically we help entrepreneurs, business owners to get on quality podcast shows like yours. And what I love about the podcasting world is that it's all about networking and making these amazing connections, making friendships because for me, I have a huge group of network of hosts that I build a friendship with, and I'm so happy for that, and I'm thankful for having these amazing people all across the globe. And as you said, yes, I have a master's degree in Danish linguistics. It's funny because there's nothing to do with podcasting or marketing, but communication it's always important, and it helped me to start the podcast booking agency. And yes, this is about me in a nutshell. I'm also an artist and I love being outside. I'm a walker. I love the Mediterranean Sea. I live like 10 minutes from it. So I walk a lot by the sea. And I love cats like you do. I have 3 of them.
Oh, I'm owned. All I do is pay the mortgage. Everything else is all scam. I try to stay out of their way.
Yes, me too.
It doesn't work. I mean, where I am, they are. But let's talk about how to prepare for it. Well, let's start from the beginning, and thank you for sharing your story. Let's start at the very beginning before the mic even goes on. And I've been pretty vocal on LinkedIn about bookers, and a lot of them are AI bookers, and they don't know what the heck they're doing, and it's a mess, and it takes up a lot of my time to say, "You didn't give me any information." You know, I used to be, not all that long ago, I would respond to everything, and now I'm getting so hammered with them that I just delete and in some instances block. And that's not how I like to show up at all. But if you're, sending me information that I can't use that basically is kicking me into the position where I have to go look for your alleged guest, I'm not going to do it. It's not my job. It's yours. It's very frustrating.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. And I do also get those emails from bookers, from AI bookers, which is, I do block them and delete them because, like, okay, why don't you do your homework? I'm in the same industry like you, so I won't use your service. But they don't really care because most of them AI generated and it's all tech. There's nothing to do with the human touch. And I think that's the most important thing when it comes to a podcast booking agency, the human touch, to have those conversations with the podcast host. Because without those, like, who are we? I mean, we need to get in touch with people. We need to chat. We need to talk. My focus is always on the other person, on the host. I always get on those conversations. That's how I contacted you. And I know you were a bit suspicious, like, what does she want from me? And I
Oh,
always
come on.
tried.
I wasn't that rude, was I?
Just a little bit.
Oh, I'm
No,
sorry.
you're okay. You were okay, but no, you were just a little bit suspicious, when it came to me. And I totally understand it because the industry is like this. I mean, you don't know who is on the other side, and that's why I try to tell people when I reach out to them, especially to hosts, that I don't want to sell anything. I would love to have a chat with you, just have an honest conversation. I would love to know more about you because this is a it's a wide world we're living in. What's fake, what's not fake, and it's so hard to see what the real thing is. So I think it's really important, whoever you are, if you are a podcast booking agency or if you are the potential guest, to reach out to the host. But before you do that, do your homework, do some research about the host, do some research about their business, do some research about their podcast. And please just listen to an episode. It's not hard. It takes at least, 30, 40 minutes, an hour, but take your time because it's so, so important.
It really is. And so many people, and like I say, I get requests Monday through Sunday, some at 3 a.m. They pop up all the time. And I'm glad to see them. I really am. But if instantly I can tell you want me to do the homework for your guest, I'm out. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah,
And
it's so.
that shouldn't be happening. And that's where common sense just does a complete failure.
Yes. I mean, if you want to visit someone and you knock on the door and they open the door, you need to tell them who you are. I mean, it's a common sense. I mean, that's what you need to use when you approach people. And yes, you need to introduce yourself and also explain why you are a great guest, include your bio, include topics, include talking points, include a previous interview, maybe just a snippet, but like at least it shows that you are a real person. And also your links, your social links, your website. So the host has a chance to know about you, to get to know you. And also, if you wrote a book, you can always forward them. And I know you read all of your guest books.
I do.
And that's amazing. And and that's so important. And I think the guests appreciate that too. That's one of the most important things.
You and I have talked about this offline that this happens to me all the time because I love to interview authors. I really do. I've got hundreds. I'm looking around. I'm doing a quick circle in here. Hundreds of books in here, 3 bookcases, an overflowing basket, and I need another wall. I'm not building a new house. So it's just I don't know what we're going to do about it. But I know I've shared this with you. I will always call my guests after, as best as I can, unless I know you're in a country where I don't have long distance or you're going to another meeting, but I'm definitely going to email you, but I do like to call. And this just makes my stomach hurt. Even repeating it, I've had so many guests say, "Oh my God, Denise, you read the book." And I'm always a bit shocked by that. They almost get teary-eyed about it. And I'm, well, yeah, I read it. You saw the Amazon review. You saw the Goodreads review. I've been posting it on social media. Of course I read it. No, you don't understand. I have sent my book to so many podcast hosts, and I could tell instantly they hadn't cracked the spine. That makes me want to pinch heads. It really does.
And I completely understand. And there's only a handful of people who actually read the books. Sometimes they do ask to send them, but I would say 80% of the time, I don't think they read it. Maybe they just, they are on the shelf and it's nice, but I don't think everybody reads that. And more podcasters should read those books because, that's why the podcast guest is there. Obviously not just about promotion, not just promoting their book, but it's their soul, it's their heart in that book. And how would you ask questions if you haven't read the book yet? So it doesn't make sense. So I think it's basic. Yeah.
And I will have guests say, "Well, can I send you a PDF?" Nope. I want the book. I want the book in my hands. I need to be able to post it on Amazon. I need to be able to, but I want it in front of me while we're on the show. And I'm not going to be, going through a PDF while we're talking. I want the book. And I'm pretty clear about that.
And I can understand that totally. And I also have, clients, they are authors. I work with a lot of authors and we do a lot of book launches for them. And many times the podcasters just tell me, "Oh, I don't need another hard copy. Just send me the PDFs." And that's it, which is okay because, I respect that too. If they don't want that, that's fine. It's their decision. It's their choice. But the hard copy is always the best. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. I'll read the back of a cereal box if that's all that's available. But I don't want to read a PDF. That means I'm stuck in front of my monitors. I need to get away from here. So no, the book is important to me for so many reasons. Okay, so once you've researched the show, we're talking to potential guests now, not bookers, but this is how you teach people, right? This is what you're telling people to do. So once you research the show, it's time to prepare. So what are some of your go-to tips for guests to make sure that they're ready and they come across as confident and natural?
Yes, always come prepared. It's so important. Have a clear understanding of what you want to talk about and always prepare some key points or talking notes or talking points to guide the conversation. It's key. I know there are many people, they just wing it. And especially if you're starting out in the podcast guesting world, don't wing it. Come prepared because the audience will notice that you are not prepared. They will hear that. And it's not a good thing if they realize like, what is the person talking about? They're not even prepared. And so for me, when I have the discovery call, not discovery call, but strategy call / coaching session with my new client, I always tell them, that's okay to prepare those topics, those talking points. Obviously, there's a flow to the flow of the conversation. You don't have to stick to it all the time. And you don't have to be so rigid during the conversation, but it's always important to know what you're going to talk about and what your business is about. Because if you don't know that, how would other people understand that? I think that's key when it comes to podcast guesting. And if you have a story, because everyone has a great story,
Oh, yeah.
but your story is that should be told in your own voice, and that's what makes it unique. And in order to do that, you need to practice that a lot. Because I remember when I started doing podcast guesting 5 years ago, yeah, it was hard. I mean, you would really need to be super clear about your story and also accept the fact that a podcast interview is like it's back and forth, like 50-50 time, I would say, between the podcast host and the podcast guest. So don't create a monologue for half an hour and try to make it a little bit shorter, interesting, unique, to stand out, because that's how people align with your story better. And also be open and vulnerable when you share your story.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Years ago, this is when I discovered this thing it'll be 18 years old in January. It's old enough to drive. It's old enough to
Congratulations.
road. Oh, thank you. I'm just shocked that it's gone on this far, and it's never going to stop as far as I'm concerned. But years ago, many, many years ago, I had not instituted the rule that you have to have a pre-call with me. That's just mandatory. You would be shocked by some of the very large names, big names, who have said, "Oh, I'd like to come on your show." Okay, well, let's do a pre-interview. Oh, I don't do that. Okay, bye. And that's the end of that. Except I'm more Ellie Mae Clampett about it. Well, you just have a nice day now. You hear it? I just leave. It's like, this is my rule. I need to get comfortable with you. I need to know who you are. I need to know what you want to share with a very large engaged audience. Those are the rules. But what you're talking about here is scripting, basically. And I script everything. What we're talking about today is scripted. Now, am I reading everything back to you by rote? No, but it keeps my sections, my segments in flow. Now I need to go, here I introduced you. Here's what we're talking about now. At the end, I ask where people can find you. It's all scripted because that's the only way I can keep on track and make sure that I'm making sense. And if I'm making sense, the guests should find it easier to also follow along.
Yes, we need that. We need the structure. We need to organize those interviews, because otherwise, what are we doing here?
I know. And you know what else I wanted to mention too, because this is important, but it goes back to when I said, I always do a pre-interview. And this lady taught me that it was mandatory, but she got on my show, and God bless her. She wanted to make it all about her. Didn't matter what kind of question I asked her. She would say, well, if you'll just go to my website, and this was old enough, she said www, remember those days?
Yes, yes, yes.
And I kept saying, and I would try to steer her away from it. And she was not going to be budged. She wanted people to go to her website, and that was all there was to it. I call that, you cannot use me as your billboard. And I ended the call. I mean, I had to. It was not usable. I was never going to invite her back. And I called her. I said, listen, I'm sorry, I can't use it. Oh, well, we can reschedule. No, ma'am, we can't. She bugged the heck out of me for the longest time. Well, I'm ready to come back. And finally, I just had to get on the phone with her and say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to invite you back. Well, I don't understand why. And she said it just like that. And I, in my best Southern voice, said very quietly, because I don't like you. And that was the end of that. I have to like you. I have to respect you. You can't come on my show.
Yes, that's it. Because you always need to provide value when you come on a show. That's the first and most important thing. That's fine if you promote your book, if you promote your service. There's always a place and time to do that, but always provide value. Otherwise, there's no point to record a podcast interview, because people want to learn. That's why they are on a show. They want to be entertained and not necessarily interested in all your services that you're selling, or which page on what topic you were writing about in your book. I mean, provide value, share your story, share your knowledge. Those are the key things when it comes to podcast interviews. And if you don't do that, the podcast hosts will lose their audience, because nobody will listen to those shows. So I think that's the key point when it comes to podcast guesting. Be entertaining, speak clearly and with enthusiasm, and try to be, conversational rather than stiff or formal. It's so important. And provide value, give something to people.
It has to be a conversation as far as
Yeah.
I'm concerned. And, you and I have talked too about the importance of being on time.
Mm.
This feels simple, but it says a lot. Be on time. And one thing, I like my schedule is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and rarely do I have somebody that will just the day of or the day before, "Oh, I can't make it." Really? You didn't know this before? So,
Yeah.
don't do that. I'm just going to ask people, don't do that. If you know you can't make it, get in touch with your host immediately
Yeah.
and reschedule. Don't leave them hanging because you're not gonna get invited back.
That's true. So, so true. And that, yes, you're absolutely right, Denise, because respect other people's time. Show up on time and be ready to go when the recording starts. And if I can advise people, just be there like 5 minutes before the actual, recording starts. It's so important. And this is just being respectful to someone
Yes.
else. And
Yeah.
because it's their show, hosts work a lot. I mean, I know they put so much energy, time, and effort into creating just one single episode. So that's the least we can do to show up on time. Yes, it did happen to me that I got sick or something happened and I couldn't make it. It rarely, because usually I have my interviews booked, way ahead. But when it happens, like as you said, immediately text the host if you have their number, and most of the time you have it, or you can just email them straight away and explain what's going on, apologize, and tell them what's going on in your life, because they will understand it. But don't, keep them hanging. Don't ghost them. It happened to me that I went on a show and the host didn't appear. And that was just like, what's going on? Like, and I tried to email them. They didn't reply me back. And yeah, it's such a wide situation when you end up like that. So communication is so important when it comes to podcast guesting, and just appreciate the other person and be on time.
And podcast hosting. Every once in a while, I'm in the middle of hurricane season. Well, it'll end at this month. But sometimes the power just says, "Oh, I'm gonna take a break." Oh, good. So I'm scrambling to call because I always make sure I have their phone number. And I'll call them and say, "Our power's out. Can we reschedule for a couple of days down the road?" Not a regular time because like you, I'm booked way out. I'm booked through April right now, I think. But I did not want to push them because it was my problem to, 6 months down the road. I'll do a Saturday or a Sunday if I have to, but I always make sure they know and that they can get rescheduled at a time that works for them. It's quid pro quo. You both do your best.
Yes, we try our best and we try to accommodate both. I mean, we are human, like anything can happen in our lives. So it's really important. Absolutely.
It is. And I've heard you say once the interview starts, the real magic happens. Let's talk about that.
Yes. And I love that the magical part. Yeah, because I love it that people share, personal experiences instead of generic advice. They go deep. And I love that part because you can really align with the message and with the person when that happens. And, when it's something real, when something is not rehearsed, the authenticity really stands out. And I really love those podcast guests who bring uniqueness to the interview, talk about what shaped them, not just what you do and not just about your business. And you show real emotions because that's what matters. Then that's what makes people connect. And when you start strong with a story, and that really hooks the attention, and people will come back to that show and listen to those episodes. And once you keep it conversational, it really flows. The whole conversation just, it becomes magical. And I love that part. And also, I mean, good energy. When you bring good energy to a show and genuine curiosity about the host and about the podcast itself, that's when the real magic happens. And you really need to bring that kind of positive vibes into a conversation, and because your energy really shines through. If you don't have that, and even your voice style, like if you don't, I'm not saying you have to just laugh it through or smile all the time, but it makes a huge difference if you are positive, if you come with a positive attitude. And as we said before, focus on giving value. It's so important, not just promoting yourself. Leave the audience always with one clear takeaway, because that's why you are on the show. You want to help people. You want to serve people. And that's when my kind of go-giver mentality comes into the picture, thanks to Bob Berg. And because he's my great friend and mentor, is a kind of a shout out to him. And that's what I learned from the whole community. Leave the audience with value, with something that will help them. Because if I can just help one person who listens today, that's already a win for me. And that makes a guest and an interview magical.
It does. And Bob Berg has been on my show a long time ago, but several times, long time ago. I'm a big fan of his work as well. So let's talk a bit about this, because so many people will, and they'll tell me, I'm kind of new to this, and I don't care if you've been on 100 podcasts or 0 podcasts. If I find you interesting, my audience will as well. That's a given. So, but they'll say, oh God, I'm so nervous. Why? Why are you nervous? It's just a conversation. So my real question to you is, how can guests sound natural and conversational and relax? What's your advice, I guess, for letting the conversation flow without losing focus? We talked a bit about bullet points and scripting, all important. Yeah. But I guess I'm looking for tips for handling nerves or going off script gracefully, and that can be done.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be done. And that's a great question, because I know a lot of people struggle with that. And I don't understand it either, because sometimes you just treat it as a conversation between two people and don't care with whoever listens to that show. And you are in the 1.5%. So a lot of people will listen to this conversation. But I don't really care, because I'm focusing on you and on our conversation. And, I try to provide value, and that's important. And how to be calm or how to be focused. What I tell to my clients when we get on a call with them, that maybe it's a breathing exercise before you start rolling, before you even log on to StreamYard or Riverside or Zoom. Just take a few breaths and try to calm yourself, calm your nerves. Don't book tail-to-tail podcast interviews. That's not a good idea. I know when authors do, for example, a book launch, they are so busy running around, doing 5-6 podcast interviews tail-to-tail during one day, and it's a lot. And people will notice if you are burned out and if you are bored or if you are tired. So try to book maybe 2-3 interviews per week, I would say, and not per day, because in that case, you can really focus on the value and the quality of the conversation that you're providing. So,
and you're listening to what the host is asking you instead of just going line after line after line. Exactly. You're right. It's boring. I've had people say, well, I can do this. No. We're going to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And it's so much more natural.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes such a huge difference. And apart from, doing some breathing exercises before the interview, maybe a short meditation helps. Like if you are struggling with nerves before the interview, just do like a 5-minute grounding exercise. It really helps to calm you and to just be present fully when the interview rolls. And also try to, stay away all the distractions around you. And maybe that it's normal for me I leave my phone in another room. I don't even bring it to my office when I'm doing interviews, because I don't want any distraction. I just want to focus on you. I just want to focus on the conversation and not checking messages or getting the, beeps and all the notifications on your computer, on your phone. Close down everything. It's a basic thing, but so many people forget to do that. So just phone away and all the notifications, just shut everything down and focus on the conversation, because it can be so distractive if something happens during a call.
It can be, and I do the same thing. My phone is almost never near me. The only distraction that will happen here is my 2 feline office assistants. They're 20-pound gingers. They're huge, and they will start roughhousing. And you'll hear me say, stop, just stop. I'll have to cut that part out. But let's go back to where you were talking about, and this is so important, and I should have asked you to expand on it. Show up 5 minutes early, and I'll tell you why I do, what I do, and you and I just did it before we started this conversation. We had what I call the virtual green room. We jumped in, we said hi, we got caught up. That part's going to be cut out, and then this will be out today. It's going to show up today. But if you show up with that extra 5 or 6 minutes, you get comfortable very, very quickly.
Yes, because we need that. We need that vibe before a conversation. Like you're starting a conversation, and once you are get into the mood, then you can start recording it. And I think that makes a huge difference. And the vibe of the conversation will really depend on that. Not just someone who were 5 minutes late, coming from another interview or another work-related Zoom meeting or whatever, and then they just feel rushed, they're not present. And that comes to a very important stage, being present.
Yes.
When you are on on an interview, be present, listen to the host, and the host will listen to you, hopefully. So it happened a few times that they didn't, but it's also important. So yeah, listen, be present. It's so important.
And I'll tell you, a good host is always taking notes while we're speaking with you. I'm taking notes now. And as a guest, you should be taking notes too. Like, oh, I might have fluffed that one. Let me go back and finish that. Just pay attention.
Yes, paying attention, listening to the other person, it makes a huge difference when it comes to podcast interviews. And the other thing is that it's fun to, I can make notes now, but obviously when I'm on, for example, in a video interview, it's a bit harder because then people can see that I'm, scribbling notes here or my mind is somewhere else. So yeah, it can be maybe a difference between audio and video interviews when I can do that. So yeah, but I still love that part. So
Good point. I hadn't thought of that because I'm audio only, always have been.
Yes.
Huh. Good point. All right, let's talk about respecting the host and the audience. Let's talk about one of my favorite gripes, etiquette for podcasts, for podcast guests and hosts. There's so much to talk about here. And what I'm really asking is that brings us to respect for the host and listeners. What does good podcast etiquette look like from your end of the spectrum?
First of all, be on time, as we mentioned. It's really important. And once you are there and once you are on time, for example, if it's a video interview, and I've seen this before, for example, dress properly or look presentable or your background should look presentable, because I've seen that and I heard these horror stories that, dirty laundry was left in the background and the podcast host should have stopped. Please stop the conversation and rolling, because see, can we do something about that? Obviously, because people can see it. Obviously, if it's an audio interview, there's no problem with that. So any kind of mess can be around you. But I think it's important when it comes to video interviews. Being present, being punctual, being prepared, it's all part of the etiquette. And also not over talk, for example, when you have a conversation. It's really important. Everybody takes their turn, but be patient. It's really important. And listen to the other person. I think it's part of being respectful. And also don't use the interview as a promotional platform, because yes, you have an amazing service. Yes, you wrote an amazing book. And I also had a horror story about that. Like, as you said before, Denise, that your guest was, oh, you can find it on my website. Or the same thing. I heard about this horror story.
I'm still mad about that. It was
I know.
Probably 15 years ago. It was longer than that. And I'm still a little bit ticked off about that. She had no business doing that.
Yes, that was the same with this podcast host friend who mentioned that whatever they asked, the guest just replied, oh, you can find me on page 25. You can find that on page 50. And they needed to stop the conversation because there was no point. Obviously, she wanted to direct everyone to their book, but that's not how you do it. There's a place and time for that during every conversation when you can promote whatever you have, but not during the whole conversation, because you providing value, it's really important. So I think these are the most important etiquettes. I might have left out a few things. I don't know. Just tell me what comes to your mind. Denise.
Promoting the episode. Here's a couple.
Oh, yes.
I mean, this is important.
Absolutely.
Listen, we are not your billboards. I think we've established that. But honestly, and my guests are so phenomenal about this. They will say, Denise, when's it going to be up today? Oh, good. My team is standing by.
Yeah.
They want to promote it.
Absolutely.
But so many people, so many podcast hosts, and I hear this a lot, they feel like, I did that in a desert. They didn't do anything. They didn't say thank you. They didn't leave an Apple review. Again, we'll talk about that. Very important. Leave reviews. But it just died after that. I never heard from them again. I never saw them. I've got Google alerts on my name, on my podcast name. It never showed up.
Yeah.
We don't,
Yes.
Why would we invite you back? Why would we promote that episode? Short answer is we wouldn't.
Yeah. So, and it's crucial. Promoting the episode is crucial. And I don't know how many times I explained that to also my clients that, oh, come on. I mean, after the episode's release, share it on social media channels and promote it to your audience because it's a win-win situation, like for the host and for you. And tag, yes. And don't forget to tag the host. That's also crucial because then you reach the host's audience or the host followers and vice versa. It's so important. And that's part of the etiquette. I mean, the host, they put a lot of effort and work into creating just one single episode. So this is the least we can do. And of course, following up, saying thank you, sending a thank you note. I remember I listened to your interview with Joel about, being grateful and thankful. And yeah, sending out those thank you notes, it's also important. And yes, if you can do that, like you can still send an email and say thank you. I don't really care about how you do it, just do it. Like, say thank you somehow, because they're just two words and it takes no efforts to do that at all. But it means so much. And I agree with you. And I heard that so many times from other podcast hosts that they don't even care. Like once the interview released, like crickets, nothing, nada.
Does that make sense to you?
No,
I mean, it makes
no,
sense. Oh,
absolutely
and
no.
let me step on your toes a little bit here. You mentioned Joel. That was Joel Zuckerberg. He was on my show not too long ago, Gratitude Tigers, and I got the loveliest card from him this morning. So thank you, Joel. But anyway, I keep these cards. They mean a lot to me. But what I guess we're both trying to say is the interview might be done, but the opportunity isn't. And honestly, from guest to host, I'm telling y'all right now, this is not a one and done. This should be shared often, frequently, multiple times. I mean, I have, reposted podcasts that are 10, 12 years old. They're still very, very relevant. So it's not a one and done. Write that down. It's not a one and done.
Exactly. I mean, you create evergreen content when it comes to podcast interviews. It's not one and done. That's for sure. And people won't remember a thing that you posted like 2 weeks ago, or maybe 2 days ago on LinkedIn or on Instagram or on Facebook. They won't remember anything. So you can rotate these podcast interviews and you can repurpose them. You can make, audio clips, video clips. You can make quotes out of it. You can write a blog post based on the interview. There's so many possibilities that you can use nowadays. Thanks to AI, it really helps you to, repurpose all the content that you create because content is still king. It's so important to remember that. And it takes so much time to create content and people moan about it. I don't know what to write on LinkedIn or I don't know what to post on Facebook. But then they don't care that they maybe had 10 podcast interviews and they never even posted them and they never tagged the host. So it kind of makes me upset when I hear that. And I had those, clients before. They came to me and they told me that, the podcast guesting is just not working. And I was sitting
I've
there.
heard that from people.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't get
So
any
many
sales
times.
from it. That's not our
Yes.
job. Your job is to promote your episodes and promote what you're doing and just use us as a springboard to do that. We don't promise you that you're going to get anything out of it than
Exactly.
we let you share your voice.
True. And when I explained to them that, Yeah, and did you do this? Did you do that? Did you promote the show? Did you send out it maybe to your email list? Or did you send it to your friends to listen to that conversation? Or did you share it at all? And when the reply was no, so what do you expect then?
It's
And
not magic.
it's not
That
magic if
part
you
is
don't
not
do it.
magic.
Like,
I know.
exactly.
If you were on, I don't know, let's say, I don't know what the TV news stations are. I don't watch the news. I don't watch TV really. But let's just say NBC, ABC, any of those people, if you're going to be on one of those shows, you're going to talk about it everywhere. Do the same with your podcast. Treat it just like you would if you were in front of a camera, in front of, I don't know any of the hosts, but you know what I'm talking about. So treat it like you would if it was that important to you. Oh, look, I was on TV. Look, I was on a podcast. Do that.
Exactly. Because why do you use podcast guesting? I mean, podcast guesting is a marketing strategy. It's part
Mm-hmm.
of your marketing strategy. It's not just like, okay, I've done a podcast very well. We had a great conversation. And so what? I mean, appearing as a guest on a podcast gives you a level of credibility with the audience. They are more likely to trust what you have to say if they hear it from someone they know and respect, from a podcast host. And that's how you build your credibility online. And that's how you build your credibility when you are a podcast guest. So this is not just like fun. I mean, this is a marketing strategy. And yes, you can use it. And it's important to be clear about that, not just appearing on podcast just for the sake of, oh, I was a guest on here and there. When you have a podcast strategy for your business, this is part of it. I always imagine it or tell people this is like, the 4 table of the legs. And this is just one table. Yes, you can run Instagram ads, you can run Facebook ads, and you can do podcast guesting. It's a completely different strategy, but it's still marketing.
Oh, absolutely. It's important marketing. In fact, the book that I'm writing that should be out end of this year, early January, is called Podcasting. It's about marketing. It's marketing. What is the name of it? I've changed it a couple times. Podcasting is marketing because it's critical. And listen, podcasting is growing by leaps and bounds. I don't even try to keep track anymore of how many podcasts are out there, but it's a lot.
Yes. Yeah. It's like 4.5 million or something.
Is it?
I don't know how much of them are active, but it's a lot. It's absolutely a lot. And once you mentioned, as we mentioned, credibility, it's also about branding. I mean, podcast guesting can be a powerful branding tool, establishing you as a reputable and knowledgeable figure in your industry and helping to develop a loyal following. I mean, this is part of it. It's really important and cost effective. I just think about that. Like the podcast host, like you spend a lot of money, time, and energy, like editing, doing all the things to those episodes to publish them. Why you, as a podcast guest, it's basically what you do. You give your time, yeah, and you prepare, but you don't really have to do anything else. Maybe you hire a podcast booking agency and they pay their fee and they find you the right podcast, but still, it's still not much compared to all the energy and money and effort that the podcast hosts are putting into it. So I think that's, again, it's crucial to know that it's cost effective and it's a very important part of your branding strategy.
Oh, very much. And it's going to become more important. And I love what you said about the economy of it. It's economical to do. Yeah. You can do it on your own. You'll say, oh, I had that great podcast with Joe Rogan or Denise Griffitts or whoever. And then you go post it. It might be a year down the road, but it was a great podcast. Repost it. That gets your voice back out there.
Yes. Yeah. And so true. And for me, and I always tell people that podcast guesting is the number one networking tool
Oh, yes.
in the 21st century. I mean, that's how you get on that pre-call. We have this conversation. Once we had our pre-call, like we started to chat on LinkedIn and sending all this, funny stuff and not so funny stuff, but important stuff we wanted to
Cranky
share with
stuff.
the world.
Let's call it what it was. Cranky.
Yes. And yeah, it's networking. It's all about building business relationships. It's all about building relationships, friendships even. It's the best way to network with other people. And it doesn't matter where we are. You're in the US, I'm in Europe, in Cyprus. You can live wherever you want. we can still network through podcasting and through the interviews.
Exactly. And there's so many things that can happen during the course of a conversation. I've had so many, and mostly this is the most important part, because as I mentioned, I always call you afterwards. And I will often, very often, either I do it on the podcast or I do it later. An hour wasn't enough. Can you come back? Nobody ever tells me no. They just don't, thank goodness. But I will also say, listen, I know you have a booker and I do not want to step on toes, but when you are ready, when maybe your contract runs out or if it's okay with Noemi, can I introduce you to other hosts? And I'll do that through you. I'm not going to do a runaround around you runaround around you. That's not how we operate. But anything that we as hosts can do to share your voice, we're going to do it if we're doing our job properly.
Yes, and that's the power of podcast guesting. That's how you build these relationships, and that's how you build your business. Because at the end of the day, we all have different businesses and we offer services and books. And yes, we do want to, we want more clients and we want to have more book sale, and it's part of it. But you can do it like in a nice way as well, in a human way, in a heart-centered way. And I think that's also crucial. It's powerful when it done right in the right way.
It is. Do you have favorite or creative ways to share episodes beyond the usual social media posts? I mean, those are important, but there's other ways to get it out there.
Yeah, I think if you have, for example, a website and you're still blogging, because so many people talked about like blogging is dead, but it's not. I mean,
No.
thanks to AI, you can use these podcast interviews. They are perfect to create different blog posts. And also, if you have an email list and sending out these emails, and it can be a teaser that I'm going to be on this podcast, check it out. And if it's live, for example, they can join in. And you can do like several emails about one single podcast interview once you were on the show and what you liked about it, and send it to your email list, for example. I love social media, like when posting on social media. So for me, that's the most important part, and it's kind of crucial when it comes to sharing the episodes and also repurposing, which I mentioned before, repurposing the content and creating shorter content, like more digestible, shorter content. It's also important. And there's so many different ways that you can do it nowadays. It's so powerful. And thanks to AI, we can use different platforms to do that.
And I love what you said about blogging. Yes, some of these conversations that I've had, particularly recently, are so important that I'm actually following up and creating a blog instead of just, here you are, we're on Instagram, we're over here. But I'm actually taking it and repurposing it into a blog because these are important voices.
Yes, absolutely. And I think I had a conversation with someone, and she said that she was recording, I don't know how many interviews with certain people because she wants to write a book. And then, and of course, once you are a podcast, host, you can totally write a book based on your podcast interviews. I mean, if you have the permission, of course, and everything. But again, content creation, it's so powerful.
It's not difficult. Just as a for instance, I like ChatGPT, but I prefer Perplexity. It's just a personal preference. And as soon as we're done here, I'm going to take the transcript because we're doing this on Zoom. I'm going to turn it over to Perplexity and ask it to pull meaningful quotes from you, the guest.
Yes. And
now, would I have time to do that on my own? Nope. But Perplexity can do it.
Thanks to AI now.
All right.
If we can do that.
But that also adds to what we were talking about. Now they can hear it in your voice and they can also read it and go, oh, I remember when she said that. Oh, I wonder what that meant. It's curiosity. It gives people more to look at and to read about and to listen to.
Yes. And once you do it with passion and people listen to that's also a magical moment, because once you're passionate about something, people will hear that, people will feel that. And that's amazing. That's how we connect to each other.
Absolutely. And we've done a great job of connecting with each other. And I thank you for that.
Thank you.
I didn't think I was being rude. I was just like, "What? What do you want?" Maybe that was rude.
No, you weren't. You were fine. Don't
I
worry.
get so many requests on LinkedIn in particular, and some of them just flat wear me out, I'll be honest. They
I
just
know.
do.
I know. You get those, like everyone. Yeah.
Oh, geez, it's crazy. But let's talk about how guests two things. I have two questions for you before I have to reluctantly let you go. But how can the guests follow up in a meaningful way with their host? I guess my real question is, what's the right approach, in your opinion, for turning one great conversation, maybe it's just one conversation, but how do you turn that into an ongoing professional relationship? That's important.
Yes, and that's a brilliant question. And so many people still don't do it, even if they have all the opportunity they can. So what I suggest to people to have those post-interview chats, which is more and more podcast hosts started doing that, and I love that approach because many times when we are on a call, when we are on an interview, I mean everybody's rushing away, they have 100 other things to do, and we won't have time to properly chat. But once you schedule a short chat with the podcast host, maybe after the interview, you reach out to them next day. Don't wait too long because people will forget things. And don't wait too long. Reach out to them, maybe just a short email. Say thank you for the interview and, can we jump on a call? I would love to learn more about your business, how we can help each other, how we can serve each other. And this is not a pitch fest. Like, don't. So this is something that you are genuinely curious about the other person and about maybe their business and how you can serve each other. And you never know what you will end up with. You can be on each other's masterminds or webinars or private Facebook groups. Or I was in an interview, for example, and so we had the interview scheduled with these two amazing podcast hosts from Canada. But then they asked me, we have this networking group. Can you come on this group and talk about how to be a great podcast guest? And it's like, sure, I can do that. So it's like it's being part of a network. So just take your time and, don't just spend some time on it and ask them, like, can we jump on maybe a 20, 30-minute call and get to know each other even more and how we can serve and help each other? So these post-interview calls are crucial. And I'm so happy to see that more and more podcast hosts started doing them because that's where the magic happens. That's where business can happen. That's where, friendships can be made after the interview because it's all about keeping in touch, keeping in contact. Because we have so many podcast interviews during our lives, but treating them, every single podcast interview as your first one and the most important one, I think it's magical.
It is. And so many people will say, especially when I go to call them, this is important to Noemi. I don't know why. I'm looking at the way your name is spelled and going, she's spelling it wrong. I mean, she's saying it wrong.
Clearly.
Yeah, it's Noemi. but it's such a pretty name. And I'm like, But I've had this conversation so many times, way too often, in my opinion, when I call my guest. And they'll say, oh my gosh, Denise, I felt like I was rambling, like I went on and on and on. And I will always say, I'm in charge of the microphone. If I'm fascinated, so is my audience.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's your platform. You know your audience. And this is the other thing that came to my mind. Like so many of my, clients, when I send them a podcast, it's like, why do you think this is good for me? It's like, I mean, first of all, the podcast host just accepted you as a guest. So why so what's the
Really?
story
They
with it?
do
Like,
that? Honestly, they do that?
yeah, they do that. And
That
it's
is
funny.
shocking.
Yeah, for me too. And sometimes I try to explain to them that, this is the right podcast. I mean, clearly they want to talk to you about these topics. So why do you question the podcast host? If they don't want you, they will say no, like clearly. I mean, you will know that. But just don't question that. Like if they want to speak to you, it's a great opportunity. Get on that call, get on that interview.
Oh, absolutely, because we do have the chance to get comfortable with one another. And honestly, and I think I've shared this with you on LinkedIn at least, I've had so many pre-interviews, pre-conversations that we've both just said, and we could have recorded that and called it done. We just get so comfortable with each other. And then because, and this is another trick, I have all kinds of them, but because I am so booked out for 6 months and it's going to be 7 months pretty soon, I'm getting nervous about that. But I'm recording the pre-interview because I do everything on Zoom and I keep those in a separate folder. And then about a week or two before I'm going to get you on the show, I go back and I listen to that because, that's where we had the real honest conversations. And I'm now familiar again with you because honestly, I don't remember booking you, not when you're that far out. So by the time I get you into that, you know, 5 minutes, the what I call the virtual green room, I'm already comfortable with you again because I went back and listened.
Yes, and that actually reminds me today's LinkedIn post that I did about this topic today, because for me the most memorable podcast interviews are the ones when the host, they do their research, like truly they do their research, and they have those deeper and more meaningful questions, and I love those because the host obviously expect from you to be prepared, but we also expect from the host to be prepared, and I love that part. And I always remember every single podcast host that did the research on me, because you could feel there's a huge difference when you get on a show and they are not just, okay, so tell me about yourself, what you do, and whatever, like just talk. And it's like, okay, they're not so interested. I'm just another podcast guest out of the hundreds that they interviewed. But when the podcast hosts, they make an effort to do that, again, it's a magical experience. And they remember every single one of them so precisely when you've done many, many podcast interviews.
That just seems like common sense, but as we all know, common sense is not all that common.
Very well said, Dennis.
I have thoughts. I try not to share them all because I don't have any filters, as you know. Okay, before we wrap up, and I hate to do this, but we have to. This has been a fascinating conversation. Can you share with our listeners, our audience, where they can connect with you and learn more about Podcast Connections? For example, should they visit your website, follow you on social media, or reach out via email, or all of the above?
First of all, the most important is the website, which is podcastconnections, plural, .com. That's our website, and you can reach out to us. And the other place where you can always find me, it's LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and you can always get in touch with me and jump on a call with me. I'm happy to do that. You just type my name in, Noemi, Noemi Beres, Peres, and I'm there with tiny microphone sign next to my name.
Yeah, I see you every day in there. Okay, as you start thinking about everyone listening today, is there any final advice or insights you'd like to leave them with, something that can help them show up confidently and make the most of their podcast appearances and make their hosts love them?
Like, do everything that we just discussed, and then you'll be fine.
All of it. Yeah.
All of it, like one by one, and you'll be absolutely fine. And the other thing is that what I noticed from many of my clients, when they come to us, they tell us like, oh, I got all those no's from the podcast host, and it really discouraged me from podcast guesting, and I don't know what to do. They didn't even reply to me. They ghosted me. Nobody, I'm not an interesting person. And
Oh, no.
it happens a lot, and maybe they have just a bad experience. And I think it's a funny thing to just accept the no's sometimes and just keep going and don't give up. Just keep going, be persistent, be consistent with it, because yes, you will get no's, like in every other business and life, you will get those no's, but the yes will come too. just be persistent when it comes to podcast guesting. And the funny thing is, like, when you have a podcast booking agency, we take the no's and we won't talk about them. I had those clients, funniest thing, before we wrap, that they wanted to ask me, so who said no to me? It's like, I'm not going to tell you. It's not good for your ego, or maybe it's not good for your self-esteem. So we take the no's from the podcast host if that happens. But the final advice, just keep going, be persistent, be consistent, and just practice, because that's how your podcast guesting experience will evolve in the future. It's important.
That is excellent advice. I have to say no a lot more than I like to, but I have some rules. No DEI, no politics. There are some things I'm just not going to talk about. But I have, again, I'm scripted, and I have a folder full of, send this one to, this is not, my audience would not be interested. It's very polite, but I'm very clear that I'm just not the show for them, and they appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you just have to be straight up front, and people will understand it. That's my policy too. I think it's important.
Right. Well, Noemi, see, I said it right.
Yes, you did, Denise.
I wrote it in big capital letters. Noemi, this has been such a valuable conversation, and the best podcast guests, like she just said, don't just show up to talk. They show up to connect, respect the process, and continue. This is important. Continue the relationship after the mic goes off. And you can find her at podcastconnections.co. And she is also active, as she said, on LinkedIn and Instagram. And this has been such a valuable conversation. And as Noemi pointed out, the best podcast guests don't show up just to talk. They are here to respect the process, to show up their work and ours, and continue the relationship after the mic goes off. So if you have enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to subscribe, find her, and subscribe to Your Partner in Success Radio, and just find other ways to connect with me. But mostly go to Your Partner in Success Radio. I'm also available on LinkedIn, as she is. Your next great connection could be just a conversation away. My feet are cold and I'm starting to stammer. Sorry. We don't get cold weather here in the Deep South. We have 2 seasons, hot and hotter than hell. But for the next few days, we're having autumn. So who knows? Anyway, I am Denise Griffitts, and I will see you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Noemi, thank you.
Thank you so much, Denise. It was an absolute pleasure and honor to be here.
Thank you.
Get your voice heard. If you would like to launch your own far-reaching podcast, contact Denise Griffitts at yourofficeontheweb.com and go to the podcast tab.